Welcome back to Brass Tacks. The other big story tonight, Prime Minister Modi has just landed in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. He will be attending the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. He will be sharing the stage with leaders of 7 other countries, including Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. While a bilateral with Putin is on the Prime Minister's packed agenda, the suspense continues on whether he will hold talks with Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the summit. With Russia, China and Iran, the summit seems to be taking an increasingly anti-West stand. And therein lies a big challenge for India: how to manage a balancing act. I want to go across to our MEA correspondent, Abhishek Jha, who's joining us live from Samarkand in Uzbekistan. First things first, what are the pledged bilaterals or the penciled-in bilaterals as far as the Prime Minister is concerned? The big question, of course, Abhishek, is will there be a pull-aside with Xi Jinping of China and maybe a handshake with Shahbaz Sharif of Pakistan? Abhishek, bring us up to speed with what you're hearing from the Indian delegation there in. All right, we'll try and go to Abhishek in just a moment. He's our correspondent there, live for us in Samarkand in Uzbekistan, where the SCO summit is due to begin at 10 o'clock India time tomorrow morning. We'll try and go to him as and when we can establish the line. But let me now introduce our guests, if we have them. GVL Narasimha Rao is BJP Member of Parliament. He's joining us live tonight. Vishnu Prakash, former diplomat and spokesperson of the MEA, is also on the broadcast. Lieutenant General retired Shankar Prasad, former DG Infantry, also on the broadcast. Vishnu Prakash, I'll start with you, sir. Again, the first question that comes to mind is the SCO, of course, in the last 20 years of its existence, has evolved, has changed shape and form. Today, has the SCO, given the current geopolitics of the world, the Russia-Ukraine war, the tensions between China and Taiwan, has the SCO become some kind of an anti-US, anti-NATO talk shop? And if it has, what is a country like India doing in it?
Good evening. SCO has always had an anti-West orientation. In fact, it comprised and still comprises, other than India, of non-democratic, non-liberal countries. And you would recall, Zaka, that US had sought observer status, which was shot down. So that is the nature of SCO, and given the contentions at the moment, given the relationship between China and the US, Russia and the US, and Iran and the US, things are turning more hostile as far as our SCO is concerned. And that is why I think our friends in the West must be heaving a sigh of relief that a country like India is a member which will introduce transparency, moderation in the organization. But that apart, that is how the West looks at it. But from India's point of view, Zaka, if SCO was important yesterday, today it is even more important, and let me explain. Because it is one of its kind. It comprises of an adversary, a foe, and a number of friends. And it poses the biggest test possible for Indian diplomatic skills, which means that we would need to prevent an adversarial ties to turn into inimical. We need to contain the mischief of a foe and build ties with friends. It's easier said than done, but that is the kind of role that India would be playing. And the fact that we have many countries rooting for us, our Central Asian friends, Russia and so on, the task is cut out for us, but India will play a very increasingly important role. And now that we are also taking over the presidency, I think the role of India will become that much more important.
I want to go across, before I go to GVL and to General Prasad. Abhishek Jha's line has been re-established. He's joining us live from Samarkand. So, Abhishek, we know that there's a penciled-in scheduled bilateral with Russian President Vladimir Putin as well as the Iranian President. The big question, though, is will there be a pull-aside meeting with Xi Jinping of China and Shahbaz Sharif of Pakistan. What are you hearing?
Zaka, there has not been any confirmation from either side. Much of a speculation from media side. There has been for weeks speculation whether these two leaders, both India and China and India and Pakistan, will be engaging in any format. Uh, but given the fact that Prime Minister has expressed his grief and condolence over the recent flooding in Pakistan, we can assume at best that there could be some exchange of pleasantries. But so far, there has not been any confirmation that these prime ministers will be having any formal, informal, or pull-aside meeting. Talking about Chinese side, we have seen in the last week there was this disengagement that we can say that is in a positive direction as far as India-China's military standoff is considered for months. So there is a very slow but steady positivity in the relationship we can see. But will that be given more pressure or more force by some kind of exchange or meeting between the Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping is something that the world is in fact awaiting, because India and China are one of the two major members of SCO, and if there is a bilateral conflict or differences that persist, the overall broader contours of this organization remains unfulfilled, and the goals that will be set by the 8 permanent members, that needs all the members also to be on very much on same lines and in a very cordial relations, and this is something that SCO would like to
All right.
achieve.
Abhishek, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this story plays out. 10 o'clock India time is when it begins tomorrow. Let me go across to GVL Narasimha Rao. You look at SCO as a forum, GVL. You have Vladimir Putin, you have Xi Jinping, both of them very anti-West, anti-US. You also have, as a dialogue partner, I believe, Erdogan of Turkey. Iran's Raisi is an observer, could likely become a full member either in this summit or the next summit. The question is, how does India balance being part of such a forum, and yet we are so invested in our relationship with the United States, we are part of the Quad. How does India balance both these ends?
No, I think the fact India's position being completely independent of our bilateral relations with both the U.S., Russia, China, and all of them. Our presence in SCO, as Ambassador Prakash said, only is reassuring to the Western countries that this does not become a kind of an anti-US, anti-West grouping. And India, I think, has actually brought some moderation and also a sense of balance to all these bodies, whichever multilateral body that we are a part of. I think India's presence actually makes it quite independent of any grouping of whether Russia or the China grouping or the US. Certainly, I think India's presence in all these groups also enables us to protect and promote our national interest.
Mm-hmm.
You see, what is foremost to us and perhaps to any country is to work all the levers of your foreign policy to work to its national advantage. And I think we have been attending the SCO meetings has certainly given us that additional leverage. And I don't think there should be anyone insecure about India's participation in whether it is in the Quad grouping or in the SCO.